All right, man, peace. So, brothers, this will be volume 2 in the series Pupil of Narcissus, and this edition will be featuring the one and only superstar forward of the LA Lakers, LeBron James. And of course, we knew that eventually we would have to cover Mr. LeBron James in the series Pupil of Narcissus, because he is certainly one of the most narcissistic athletes, not only of this current generation, but of all time. There is no doubt about that. And don't get it twisted, I'm a firm believer in the power of self-talk, meaning what your mind conceives is what your body and your will is going to achieve. You always have to be positive in your self-talk. When you doubt yourself, you're never going to accomplish anything in life. There's no doubt about that. But there's a very thin line between self-belief and self-delusion. Self-delusion, which is a hallmark of narcissism, is when you believe that you can be as proficient in every field of endeavor as you are in what you were blessed at. Don't get it twisted. Some of us have multiple gifts. LeBron James is gifted in more than one area. But just because you're gifted in more than one area does not mean that you're equally gifted in every area. He's a wonderkind as a basketball player. As a businessman, he's just good to very good because he knows how to sell himself, to the point where actually he sells himself out. It's just that his constituency, his market, does not understand that. And that brings us to this case right here. LeBron James is trying to use wokeism as a platform to amplify his profile. I've covered this concept numerous times since I've had this channel. And unfortunately, because so many top pundits in the sports world are trying to turn athletes into leaders, what we're doing is we're casting LeBron James and other athletes in roles that they're not equipped to fulfill. One of my very early videos addressed the sentiment that Stephen A. Smith was trying to propagate to the masses. That being that athletes, really black athletes, should consider themselves leaders and should be seeking out leadership positions in the so-called black community. And overall, that's not necessarily a bad sentiment. But when you understand what it means to be an actual leader and the amount of change and engineering that's going to take to correct or recalibrate a lot of the issues that we have as a quote-unquote black community, you quickly understand how ill-equipped the average superstar black athlete is to be at the vanguard of any real change. Because no disrespect to them, just because you can run and jump high does not mean that you're going to have the ability to, number one, evaluate the issues, and number two, be able to correct them. Corrections have to occur in the home. And one of the main problems that we have as a so-called race, i.e. the so-called black race, is that we idolize these false images that we see on television, whether they be athletes, actors, etc. It's okay for all of us to acknowledge the greatness and the gifts that people have. That's a part of being able to acknowledge the gift within yourself, is to be able to acknowledge the gifts in others. But when we start to put them on pedestals, now we become distracted away from the corrections that we need to make. We live in this world. You'd be a fool to act as if you don't watch movies, you don't watch a television show, you don't go out and understand what's going on around you, or you don't sit down and enjoy a sporting event. But we have to keep these things in their proper place. And one of the main reasons why the liberal sports media is constantly trying to push Colin Kaepernick and LeBron James and Serena Williams and Odell Beckham Jr. on the masses of so-called black people is because they know that all of these athletes are bought and paid for by the corporatocracy, i.e. Nike Incorporated or whatever which coven they work for. They're all bought and paid for. They're actors. And it's their job to push certain Luciferian or super liberal or culturally Marxist sentiments on so-called black people to keep us confused and bemused, unbeknownst to them. Because within the recesses of their mind, they think that what they're doing is a good thing. LeBron James thinks that what he's doing is a good thing, to try to teach people to worship him and to teach people to worship themselves. Serena Williams thinks that it's a good thing to teach women to worship their own quote-unquote divine feminine aspect. And they're doing this at the behest of Nike, which is a Saturnian organization. As a matter of fact, the original name of Nike was supposed to be Dimension 6. Phil Knight mentioned this in an interview that he had on the CBS Morning News. I'll probably be covering that interview down the line. This was an interview that was staged a long time ago. Charlie Rose was actually still one of the anchors at the time. I meant to make a video about it, but I never got around to collecting all the information that I wanted to collect so that I could put forth the presentation that I wanted to put forth on that topic. But Nike Incorporated was supposed to be called Dimension 6 as an allusion to the planet Saturn. And a lot of you brothers out there might notice that Phil Knight is always dressed in all black. Once again, there's a world that we see and there's a world that we do not see. And these high-level corporations, they all pledge allegiance to the concept of Saturn, aka Ptah. And that brings us to Mr. LeBron James, who is a self-worshipper. He is a microcosm of Narcissus, who I've already covered in Volume 1 when I spoke about Antonio Brown. He was an entity who actually precipitated his own demise by worshiping himself. When he saw his reflection in a body of water, he fell in love with himself. And eventually that led to his own destruction. Will that happen to LeBron James? We'll see. But one of the core elements of someone who's on his way to destroying himself is he starts to make outlandish statements that he thinks are going to catch on with the masses of the people. And that, of course, is what we see now with the so-called glass helmet project, which looked like some type of joke or practical stunt that LeBron James and his partner Maverick Carter were pulling, but they were completely serious. You know why that is? Because they've been out in Hollywood for the last year and change, and they've been hanging out with those high-level witches. And they truly believe that whatever they put forth is going to resonate with the people and they're going to latch on to it. Why is that? Because they're witches themselves. They look at commercials as spells that they cast. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, welcome back to the most fearless show in sports. Jason Whitlock, Marcellus Wiley, joined once again by TJ Husmanzada and LeVar Arrington. All right, let's talk some LeBron James. A couple of weeks ago, I upset the LBA community, LeBron apologist community.
AKA the LeBron sexuals.
When I said their leader, LeBron James, suffers from fame and social media addiction. In the aftermath of LeBron's "Hey, look at me" antics at his son's AAU game, I said fame is an addiction more dangerous than cocaine.
It absolutely is. And I almost put this video under the series LeBron James, Slave to Fame. Thus far, I did a video on Muhammad Ali as a slave to fame. I did a video on Floyd Mayweather. I easily could have put this video under that category. But as we all know, LeBron provides us with so much fodder that I'm sure that there's going to be another storyline over the course of this next season that will allow me to make a video under that category. And as we can see in the lower left-hand corner, that's Saquon Barkley inside of the glass helmet. I did a couple of videos on Saquon that I released in that big video upload from a couple of months ago, where I stated that he's someone to watch. Even though he relatively has his head together, he is someone who's being very much feted in the entertainment world. That's how they recruit you into that Luciferian mentality. They're very nice to you. They tell you about how gifted you are. They analyze your gifts, and they tell you how you can take your image or your brand to the next level. As we can see, he's down there modeling the quote-unquote glass helmet.
Burleson and other members of the LBA community rushed to the internet to preach to the world that LeBron is a good daddy. They don't? He take care of his kids. Well, at the risk of upsetting LBAers, I'm going to once again point out that the latest example of the negative side effects of LeBron's addiction to fame. The 34-year-old basketball star claims to have identified football's most unique challenge and further claims to have invented a solution: glass helmets.
Let me say this, it would not surprise me at all if this quote-unquote glass helmet project was from the brain trust at Nike. Nike works through LeBron James, and understand they've been trying to socially engineer the NFL for the past few years. As we all know, Colin Kaepernick is another asset of Nike Incorporated.
Players being inside a helmet and them not having no voice and no one knowing who they are because of the helmet, and no one ever truly knowing that there's actually a person inside there and not taking that seriously. They will be seen by uninterrupted, and this right here is the first glass helmet.
Brothers, look. I know a lot of you guys out there are fans of this dude, and many of you become upset when I state that he's mentally ill. But if you're not starting to see it right now, I'm not quite sure when you're going to understand how mentally ill he is. He's like someone who's been living in a castle on the top of a mountain for many years. He has not interacted with regular people in so long that he's actually starting to believe that everything that comes out of his mouth is justified and relevant. Like, he really believes that. And I don't just blame him. I blame the people who've been around him for the past 20 plus years. I blame many of his fans on social media who make him think that everything that he says is something of great depth and profundity. So it's not really all his fault, but a lot of it is his fault because he's really high on his own ego. And it's a shame because he's actually trying to justify self-worship. You're on the football field and you're supposed to be upset that people can't see you. What's next? A glass helmet for construction workers because you have to show people that you matter as you build the building or the artifice that they're going to work in? Why should you have to stand there with a large yellow helmet on your head? It should be glass helmets so that everybody could see the great work that you put in this building that they're going to work in. You're a human too. There's something wrong with this dude, huh?
And the meaning behind it is all these great athletes that play our wonderful sport of football will be heard and will be seen.
Is this your king? I just can't believe they got Saquon Barkley's stupid looking ass smiling with a damn glass helmet on. He should be embarrassed.
Because they are, at the end of the day, they are people as well when they take these helmets off. And they are people when they have the helmets on as well.
One day you brothers are going to understand what I've been telling you. LeBron James is not pro-black. He's been able to use the pro-black and the woke bullshit to hustle his way into the minds of a lot of you dudes on the internet who, no disrespect, are emotionally disturbed yourselves, what I call the wokety wokes. He uses wokeism to get into your mind and make you think that he's an ambassador for you, and he is not. The only interests that he represents are Nike Incorporated. That's it. He's about getting his hustle on. And that's all well and good until you start to actually try to apply real life issues to your corporate mindset. Now you're a pimp. And a lot of you guys out there are getting pimped by this dude.
So,
when I first saw this, I thought it was a comedy skit. I thought
Because it is a comedy skit. I'm going to wind it back all the way.
players being inside a helmet and them not having no voice and no one knowing who they are.
Who the hell watches a football game and says to themselves, I wonder what Odell Beckham thinks about the economy right now? This is about his quote unquote more than an athlete campaign. That's why I call this dude a politician. That's all he is. That's why he sits down and tells other people how they should rank him in the all-time list as opposed to allowing them to appraise him themselves. Because he knows that if he allows people to think for themselves, he's going to fall short of where he wants to fall on the all-time rankings. He's nothing but a politician.
Because of the helmet. And no one ever truly knowing that there's actually a person inside there and not taking that seriously. They
Oh, really? So people think that there are robots inside of those helmets and shoulder pads, right, LeBron James?
will be seen by uninterrupted.
And what type of grown man has as his credo, they will be seen? Most grown men don't want to be seen. They don't want to be bothered. They want to do their job, whatever it is, take their ass home, be with their family. Who the hell wants to walk down the street every day and have everyone recognize you? Unless you're someone with low self-esteem who's trying to compensate for that with narcissism.
And this right here is the first glass helmet.
Keep in mind, LeBron James tries to sell himself as a quote-unquote man of the people. But you've yet to see him mingle amongst the common or regular folk in Los Angeles, much less in the quote-unquote hood. Remember, he tries to style himself as a modern-day basketball Muhammad Ali, right? Muhammad Ali, wherever he would go, he would always go to the hood first. And he would never have any security other than his brother. LeBron James does not do that because he's scared to death of dealing directly with the masses because he knows that he's full of shit. He recently just filmed a new commercial for his Blaze Pizza. And Skip Bayless, and look, I've always said this. Back in the day, 7-8 years ago, I used to think Skip Bayless was such a hater of LeBron James. And as I've matured when it comes to my perspective on this dude, I've come to understand that Skip was right the whole time. When Skip was speaking to Shannon Sharp and they were reviewing the commercial that LeBron James made where he posed as this character named Ron, who's walking down the street with 4 Blaze pizza boxes in his hand. Skip said, you notice he had to film that commercial in Akron because he knew that no one would try to hurt him in Akron. If he tried that in LA, especially where his name was kind of sullied due to his own inability to keep his word, as well as his great pride. Remember, supposedly they were going to have some advertisement to all the people in LA that LeBron was opening a Blaze Pizza outlet there and he was going to make an appearance. All the Laker fans showed up, and not only did LeBron not show up, but he and his wife had the nerve to post a video on Instagram of them in the pool, like, so what, we didn't show up. That shows you that his mentality trickles down to his family. They just seem to think that that they could just do whatever and say whatever. But once again, this is a big hustle. And there's nothing personal against LeBron. It's good the brother works hard. He's a great basketball player. But when it comes to his off-the-court endeavors, he's full of nothing but shit.
And the meaning behind it is all these great athletes that play our wonderful sport of football will be heard and will be seen.
Brothers, once again, everyone can be heard. If you listen to a lot of these clowns on television, they try to make the so-called black man think that it's 1935 and we don't have a voice. We all have access to social media. We all have a voice if we want to have one and if we actually have something to say. This notion that athletes or black people don't have a voice is nonsense.
They are, at the end of the day, they are people as well when they take these helmets off. And they are people when they have the helmets on as well. So
make sure you buy my product. NFL, call my people.
When I first saw this, I thought it was a comedy skit.
It is.
I thought LeBron was having some fun. And then I watched a 4-minute YouTube video titled The Glass Helmet Project, tackling one of football's most unique challenges. Oh, sweet Jesus. I think LeBron is serious. LeBron's sidekick, Maverick Carter, some nondescript former NFL player, Andrew Hawkins, and an artist are pushing the notion that glass helmets, or symbolic glass helmets, would liberate and humanize oppressed NFL players.
Right now, LeBron James and his people, as well as his sponsors and Nike Incorporated, they know that for the most part they have the NFL by the balls, quote unquote, or per se. They know that the NFL is just, they're trying to duck any controversy, especially with anything having to do with, quote unquote, being liberal enough or being open-minded enough or being receptive to the individual rights of their players enough. So they see this as a point of susceptibility with the NFL that maybe they can capitalize on.
I could walk down the street, be the star of a football team, and nobody knows who I am. Because people don't recognize you. As players, we're kind of looked at as warriors or gladiators, right? And gladiators aren't people who you remember their name.
No, not true. We remember Spartacus.
But when it comes to football, they cheer for the laundry in the sense that they root for their teams more than having a direct connection with the players.
Hopefully one day we'll see glass helmets on the field.
Hey, brother, didn't I tell you that Maverick Carter has gone totally Hollywood? Let me rewind this back a little bit. Brothers, please keep in mind, and I'm sure that this sounds very far-fetched to people who are unfamiliar with my channel and what it's about, but when these dudes go out to Hollywood, in order for them to cement certain relations with the movers and the shakers out there, they have to be comfortable with many of the rituals involved with the Babylonian Kemetic mystery school system as it's practiced in Hollywood, known as the Kabbalah. And that means pansexuality. Nothing against this dude right here, but he exudes the energy or the vibe of someone that will do anything to get anywhere. As did LeBron James, and I said that a very long time ago. Of course, what I'm saying is alleged, but I do believe that the both of them are pansexual. Allegedly.
Hopefully one day we'll see glass helmets on the field.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I don't know. Back in college,
Let's stop.
I experimented with marijuana. Don't do it, kids. It's a waste of time. It's overrated. But what LeBron is doing here reminds me of what we used to do in college. There were a handful of serious smokers on the football team, and they'd call me and be like, Big Will, come over.
Big Will.
We got that purple dank straight from Cali.
Dude said purple dank.
Ooh, wee! That's how LeBron feels about fame. He's calling NFL players. Antonio, AB, come over, dog. Me and Mav got that do-do-do.
That's exactly what he's doing. Cats are laughing, but LeBron James is trying to signal a lot of the players in the NFL who feel like they're not being treated on the level of NBA players. There's a perception amongst NFL players that NBA players have it better, and that's just not the case. It's just that the NBA does a far better job of marketing their cultural Marxism.
Helmet going increase your fame 20 times over. See, when you're addicted to something, you think everybody would be happier if they were addicted to it too.
Absolutely. And beyond that, when you're addicted to something, not only do you believe or you convince yourself that others will be happier if they were addicted to what you're addicted to, you also understand that it would make you feel less embarrassed about the fact that you're addicted to it if you can get others to be addicted to it as well. That's why these actors and a lot of these big wigs out in Hollywood who had to bend over to get to where they're at, they bend over the people who are trying to get into Hollywood because they're embarrassed by it, and now they want you to be in on the secret of embarrassment.
LeBron would be shocked to learn that not everyone wants to be famous. In fact, most people don't want to be famous.
Absolutely, especially if you're in your right mind.
Oh, they might like a little hit of fame once or twice a year. It's cool. But on a day-to-day basis, most people just want to be left alone to enjoy their family and friends.
Absolutely. Couldn't put it better myself.
Anonymity. Besides, football isn't broken. It's 3 to 5 times more popular than basketball. No one has a problem recognizing Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, J.J. Watt, Von Miller, Zeke Elliott, Drew Brees, Odell Beckham Jr., Baker Mayfield, Cam Newton, Eli Manning. Do I need to go on?
No, you've made your point, but LeBron James does not believe that the NFL or professional football is broken from a two-dimensional perspective, meaning it's protocol. He believes that it's broken from a three-dimensional or cultural perspective. It's his job to change the thought process of the athletes. Along with Jay-Z, along with Colin Kaepernick, they're all working for the same force.
No one knows anyone in college basketball. You recognize these guys? Trevor Lawrence? Jalen Hurts?
I agree with that. College basketball is the most anonymous sport in America right now.
Tua? LeBron? Pipe and the glass helmet down. Sit down at your kid's game. Stop with the Taco Tuesday foolishness.
Woodlock said, put the pipe and the glass helmet down. And that Taco Tuesday shit. Brothers, I was about to do another entry of, is LeBron James losing his sanity? But I left it alone. Because if you've ever seen any of LeBron's social media, anyone with perceptual abilities can quickly understand that nothing against this dude, but he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. He has a lot of handlers that help him craft his image and provide him with business opportunities. And I think that from a fiscal perspective or a business perspective, he has a certain amount of acumen. But just overall, he's not all there upstairs, man. He's like a 17-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old's body.
This commentary isn't an elaborate metaphor, LeBron. Your brain is on fame. Just say no. All right, guys. Marcellus, get us started.
You really get us started. You already got us started. MC Hammer started.
Is this proof LeBron's addicted to fame?
Look, all right,
The reason why it's taking his brother so long to get started is because he's a LeBron James fanboy. But even he can see the buffoonery here. That's why I tell cats, do not be a fan. It takes you too long to understand and recognize shit that's right in front of your damn face if you're a fanboy.
Let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. What the hell is this transparent resin glass helmet? I mean, it makes no sense, but it actually does land somewhere, and the blame is not his fame or his seeking of fame. I blame business and I blame Hollywood, and this is why.
Well, that's part of it, but it's also LeBron James' mental issue.
If anybody's ever had an idea, if anyone's ever thought of a business, thought of a product, the first thing they want to know beyond the idea is who's your team. Then to get traction, that team has to activate, usually in celebrity or in fame, to make it get traction.
In other words, you have to have someone who's going to sell the product on TV. And that's where LeBron comes in.
LeBron James is guilty of being only one thing.
A pawn.
Not fame controlled, not social media controlled.
Corporate controlled.
He's King Midas. And when King Midas has the Midas touch, everything he's a part of gets traction. Everything he's a part of basically gets greenlit
regardless of concept. So
I agree with that.
That's what has happened to LeBron. I've been in too many pitch meetings.
I agree with that. And that's also how you know that the corporate power structure that is above him and utilizes him knows that they can work through him.
Say the best thing in the world. So who's associated with that? If you say LeBron James, or better yet, LeBron James is the one saying it to you, okay, what do we have to do? We're involved. We're engaged.
Right, but what makes you think that LeBron James came up with this idea? I don't believe that either he or Maverick Carter came up with this idea. I believe that they were given this idea and they were told, we're going to try to work through you because we're really just trying to attack the NFL. We're trying to recalibrate the NFL and make it less, quote unquote, toxically masculine. They want all environments of high influence to have as close an amount of equal masculine and feminine energy as possible. Football is almost exclusively masculine in energy emission or energy emanation. They can't have that because they're trying to attack masculinity at every turn. They're trying to figure out a way to either make the men more feminine or include women in football wherever they can.
And so since he's King Midas, and I will be as guilty as him, when you got the Midas touch, you touch everything, even if it doesn't make any sense. So I'm not blaming social media. I'm not blaming fame. I'm blaming the fact that this dude could do no wrong.
Allegedly.
When he does something like this that seems wrong.
To answer your question, is he addicted to fame? I have to say no. And the reason I say that is there hasn't been an athlete in the history of sports that's more famous than LeBron James.
Oh, I'm not quite sure about that. In the history of sports, there have been people who are more famous than LeBron. Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan were more famous than LeBron James.
I mean, he can go in any city in America across the country, and
Bill Gates don't want no more money.
But
Warren Buffett don't want no more.
You said, is he addicted to fame?
No,
He's already famous.
No, I got it.
And so,
Right, but Whitlock's point is that with addiction, there's no such thing as enough. So if your contention is that it's not a fame addiction issue because he already has it, no, there's no such thing as that. A crack addict always wants more crack.
this helmet thing is not going to work. I mean, it's catchy. It's like,
No, it's not catchy at all. It's just a shtick.
you put the ear pads and everything else in it, you're still in the same situation.
You know what Hugh Hefner did? I done had enough Playboy bunnies. I don't need no more. Or did he say, bring me some more?
Of course.
So that's his point, TJ Hushmanzada. His point is that LeBron James is addicted to fame. He always wants more.
LeBron, that's the addiction. I got some family that used to like crack. They couldn't get enough of it. Yeah. It's not like, I've had enough. Yeah, it's like, no, I want more fame.
I don't see how much bigger he can get from that perspective.
You think Steve Ballmer don't want more money?
And LeBron James is not quite as big as you think he is, if we're just talking about from the sporting aspect. LeBron wants to get even bigger than the sports world. That's why he calls himself more than an athlete. He wants to get as big as possible until he gets to a level where the people on the level that he's trying to get to tell him, no, you can't get up in here because you're not going to fuck with our money. Because that's the universal language, money. So those in power will allow LeBron James to climb as high as he feels like trying to climb until he starts to threaten their money by doing something stupid or trying to include himself in a sphere that's really above his level of comprehension.
Really think about this, and I'm sure they thought, once you put all the ear pads and everything else, you're in the same helmet.
No, they have not thought about that, TJ Hushmanzada. They have not thought about that at all. I don't think they've thought, period.
There's no doubt about it.
And the logos.
They're saying it's a metaphor, that it's not reality, but again, you heard
They didn't make it sound like it was. I thought it was a metaphor, but they're making it sound like they want guys to be in clear helmets.
Are we getting catfished up here? Are we getting catfished?
They're 100% saying that.
First and foremost, let's start with the fact that this is once again like Taco Tuesday. Takeo Spikes published a book called Under the Helmet. The illustration on the front of the book is a clear helmet. So you're not even being original with what it is that you're bringing to the table.
Right, but there's not much that's original about LeBron James. That's my point. He's hustling his marketplace, that being wokety woke, silly ass Negroes on the internet. And a lot of the people who who form or formulate his fan base. That's what I've been trying to communicate to a lot of people who come on my channel for a very long time now. I tell you, brothers, these things because I have love for you. All right? LeBron James is an intermediary. He's a pawn. Don't get it twisted. The brother's an extremely hard worker, great athlete, phenomenal basketball player. But he knows that he has to develop a very strong line of bullshit to get to the level that he's trying to get to. And that's the Jordan level and beyond.
Shouts out to Takeo for bringing stories and relevance to what we are as football players. By the way, an all-pro Pro Bowl football player.
Who will be here tomorrow on our show?
Shouts out.
Yeah.
All right. So
sue LeBron.
The interesting thing. Wow. How about it? I just think that
he should sue LeBron. Remember, LeBron James was trying to sue Nick Saban for the barbershop show that Nick Saban had, right? So maybe Takeo Spikes should sue LeBron James.
He is in overdrive with empowering people.
No, sir. He's in overdrive with using the empowerment shtick to endear himself to a fan base that does not quite understand what his overall end game is. LeBron James is not, and I repeat, is not a man of the people. He's not the man of the people that he tries to act like he is. But he understands that a lot of quote-unquote regular people idolize him, and that means that he can manipulate them in a very similar way that a pimp does a prostitute.
No, I have no problem with him trying to empower others. His school that he has is.
You mean the Nike production, known as the I Promise School? Because that's what that is. That's also a shrine to LeBron James, as everything else is. The children go there and they have to see murals of LeBron James and his wife Savannah. I mean, are you kidding me? You go to a school to learn, not to be indoctrinated and have all these images pushed into your subconscious mind to worship them and bow down to them. It's a big joke.
At a super high level, the things that he's doing, the empowerment of his boys to be able to do what they're doing, I have no problem with him enterprising off of what he brings to the table. I'm just a tad bit offended by pulling out a flimsy helmet that looks like a prototype with a 1978, 79 face mask frame, no type of guts, anything to the helmet. Look how flimsy that is. That looks like a penny jar. That looks like...
That's exactly what that looks like, a damn penny jar or coin jar.
Put your pennies and your nickels in. That is as flimsy an attempt to say you're doing something. And listen, I'm not a LeBron James apologist or a hater, neither one. I like LeBron James, but if you're going to pull out a prototype, at least have a profound story connected to what it is that you're saying.
He can't do that because the dude is not deep. He's not deep, brother. There's nothing profound about him. He's trying to be deep. That's why he wants to cleave on to the legacy of Muhammad Ali. That's why I've been telling you cats this for a while. The Muhammad Ali connection or correlation or attempt at a correlation that Nike has made between Ali and Colin Kaepernick or Ali and LeBron James is to get people to accept them as some quote-unquote revolutionary style entities in the aftermath of Ali's death, so that Nike can sell more product and also socially engineer society, because Nike is just an extension of a lot of the Saturnian maxims from overseas in Europe with the cultural Marxist bankers and bigwigs and billionaires over there. Phil Knight is connected with them because he's a high-level Kabbalist. Once again, the original name of Nike was supposed to be Dimension 6. You can look it up yourself. It's an allusion to the planet Saturn.
Felt like it was a feeble attempt to sound super educated about what you're presenting.
Oh, you thought he sounded super educated?
No.
Thank you, Whitlock. There's nothing educated about LeBron James. Nothing against that brother. I'm happy that he's such a great success in the basketball world, but pretty much the only thing that I would trust LeBron James to be able to speak about with any level of proficiency is basketball.
It was feeble.
I got to push back at that one. All right, somebody said that helmet could be some at the concession stand. You get your stadium nachos.
Yes.
Popcorn.
Yes.
Popcorn. It wins there. I will push back and say one thing also about the presentation that really struck me is like if you're going to do this and you know it's a stretch, but to just do this, you gotta sound like you know what you're talking about.
Since when? Since when do wokey wokes actually have to know what they're talking about, Marcellus Wiley? They've been talking shit now, hard body, for the last 3 years and have not known what they're talking about on any subject. Colin Kaepernick does not know what the hell he's talking about. Neither does LeBron James. But once again, they don't have to. Serena Williams. Now, Serena Williams is the same person who made an appearance on David Letterman, I'd probably say 6 or 7 years ago. And when she was asked whether or not she could compete against male tennis players, she said, "You have to be kidding me. There's no way that I could even win a set against a male tennis player." Now, all of a sudden in 2019, everyone is supposed to act like she's a mother goddess figure. Oh, she won a tournament while she was pregnant. She's making appearances on modeling catwalks with her daughter to once again try to project this divine feminine energy. The last time she was at the French Open, on her attire, she had the term mother goddess on it. I mean, they're really high on a lot of these Luciferian principles that they're being fed behind closed doors. There's no doubt about it.
Designer went up there and said, and we have this cage bar.
It's what you said, though. When you're LeBron James and your name is attached to it, it's going to gain traction.
I love Hawk. I love Lil Hawk. Have Jerry Rice. Have somebody.
Well, I wasn't even talking about Andrew Hawk. Shout out to Columbia, and the guy's smart, and Andrew Hawk just kills it. I'm not going there. Yeah, he went to Columbia.
Okay. Man, he went to the top.
Whitlock said he is. Well, Marcellus Wiley stated that this dude Andrew Hawkins is intelligent. There's a difference between intelligence and education. Andrew Hawkins attended Columbia University, so we know that he's educated. What he's educated in has to be verified. Whether or not he's intelligent has to be questioned if he will co-sign something like this. We know that he's educated enough to know how to make money, and he knows that if he associates himself with LeBron, he'll make money.
But let me say this. What was profound about what they're saying is what Takio's talking about, and what we hear a lot of times. Go ahead. A lot of this is about the sports culture. There is a helmet psychology. A lot of women actually bring this up. They say, you know why y'all football players always act up when y'all get out, and y'all always doing too much, spending way more money than every other back?
Because you have an inferiority complex to NBA players, and that's what LeBron James is playing on. He's playing on your inferiority complex to him, because he knows a lot of NFL guys, and NFL guys have convinced themselves that NBA players are more famous than them. And that's only in their mind that that is the case.
Baseball's more reserved, basketball just chilling. Y'all know who we are. Football, you know why they say that? I'm gonna tell you why they say that. Because nobody know who you are. Since you're hiding in anonymity, you want to all of a sudden
I take offense to that.
Well,
yeah, that's just not true. If Lawrence Taylor walked down the street in 1986, people gonna know who he is.
I take offense to that stereotype. I haven't met those people. I ain't never acted up because I was not.
Marcellus, so that's a narrative out there.
I think, and this is just me keeping it real. I think in my building this summer, there's been 4 or 5 NBA players that live there.
We had one on the show.
Yeah, no. And no offense to any of them. I had to ask who they were.
Absolutely. These average NBA dudes who all basically look the same, tattoos up and down their arms and legs and looking like black punk rockers with the wild nappy hairstyle, all that other shit, they all look the same to me, basically. Other than the top 20, 25 guys in the league, I couldn't name most of these dudes.
Tall guys, black dudes, tatted up.
Yep.
Hey, bro, you don't know if there's the top echelon of NBA players that you know on site. Just like the top echelon of football players you know on site. This whole thing that football players are somehow anonymous because they're playing under helmets and people don't treat them like humans.
We all stop.
That's bogus.
We all stop. You were recognized.
That's not true.
I'm recognized because I'm big. I mean,
but most guys don't always
No. There are 6th, 7th men in the NBA that's going around here. Everybody know. Ain't no
depends on what.
Stop. How many 6th or 7th men in the NBA will be recognized unless you're consistently making deep playoff runs? Like maybe a Sean Livingston or Andre Iguodala or the cat with the Clippers, Lou Williams, so on and so forth. Those type of guys, or Jamal Crawford, You have to be a special 6th or 7th man to be recognizable on the street, especially if you're outside of the city that you play in.
Play for. If you
I'm in the sports world and I got 5 of them living in my building, I see them, I don't know.
That's great, but also there's a generational gap. Look, you don't know every 20-some-year-old walking around here.
I watch the NBA, it's my job.
And I respect that, but if we're going to say, look, top to top, we're the same, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Middle to middle, are we the same?
Well, Marcellus, you also have to realize that the NFL has a 53-man roster, which I'm sure you already know. So if there are 11 guys on defense and 11 guys on offense, the probability that you're going to go unrecognized is far higher in the NFL. But Whitlock's point is that the creme de la creme of the NFL are just as recognizable as the NBA, and there's no doubt about that. Cam Newton, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Odell Beckham Jr., Antonio Brown now, of course. Those guys are as recognizable as any NBA athlete.
Ratio.
No, that's all I'm saying.
I bet you by ratio it is. I bet you by ratio it's worse. I can get, and here's why. Because you have an offense and you have a defense. Dante Hall was never a major part of an offense outside of what he did on special teams.
And Dante Hall walked through the Fox Hills Mall and nobody would even stop.
That's Dante Hall.
In Kansas City, I'm not quite sure about that. If you're Dante Hall in Kansas City in 2003 and you're walking through the mall, I guarantee you, people are going to recognize you.
Overwhelming majority of NBA players.
By ratio. By ratio.
I love it. Yes.
No, let's just go with stats.
Let's go.
4% of the American population is 6'2" or taller.
Okay.
So they're already, the average NBA player is 6'7". They're in a very small window of just human beings. When you see somebody 6'7", that's not the overwhelming majority of. It's their size.
You know the big difference too, though, is the NBA pushes the players, whereas the NFL pushes the NFL and not the players. That's the biggest difference. Where the stars in the NBA, they get pushed. The stars in the NFL, they push the NFL.
Well, the NBA players are also going to have a lot more endorsements because they're a bit more accessible due to the fact that a lot of the products that they will be used to promote are more streetwear oriented, like sneakers and things of that nature.
Stars they want to push.
Well,
they push who they
both
want
of
to
you are
push.
right. And this is my problem with LeBron. Again, trying to, basically what he's saying to NFL players, I'm going to make you more like me. And that.
I'm going to make you more like me, i.e. I'm going to make you happier with yourself. LeBron is playing on the inferiority complex that NFL players have, or that he perceives that they have. And I'm sure that there's some substance to that because a lot of NFL guys interact with him. Please remember that Antonio Brown appeared on LeBron James's show, The Shop, because Antonio Brown is woke, i.e. an agent of chaos, i.e. a cultural Marxist. Question authority at all time, attack authority at all times, attack order at all times.
Good for business. The NFL has a completely different business model than the NBA.
That's true.
And it's
very much so.
Far more successful than the NBA's
But for
model.
the brand, not the personal brand. So that's
No.
For the brand.
It generates more money, and at the end of the day, NFL players get a percentage of the money generated. It's good for the players, that business model for football.
Now, the NFL players might not get paid as much as they think that they should be getting paid, but that's the fault of the NFL Players Association. There's no way in the world that you guys are supposed to have a hard cap and you're playing in the NFL and you're making the most money of any sport, or at least any major sport in the United States. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Make more money than us.
There's less of
So
them.
he's saying for the
brand. Yeah, there we go. Go ahead. You got it.
There's only 15 on the team. There's 53 on the team.
We get it. We understand the ecosystem.
Right.
At the same time, we're talking about impact. We're talking about how it affects us, not only in our personal brand, but in how we're getting monetized. And it's a different experience in the NBA. These dudes in the NBA are making $40 million base salary on the court and making $40+ million off the court.
Right, but that's due to sneaker sales. And that's due to the Michael Jordan effect.
Name the football player doing that.
And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. If people wore cleats to work and you could sell cleats, you'd make that kind of money. These guys have shoe contracts because people buy tennis shoes.
You're making LeBron point. So now he's
No, he's not really making your point. he's explaining why you're wrong.
After the hardware, the equipment, and said maybe if we tweak it, we can actually help you guys.
Jerry Jones is gonna go. We're not gonna sell this Cowboys helmet. We're gonna sell this clear thing. No. Get out of here.
With a start,
bad business. All right, DraftKings.
There's no way in the world that's gonna happen. But anyway, LeBron James needs a lot of help, but he's not going to get the help that he needs because he's too high on the mountaintop, and his fan base, those who dwell at the base of the mountain, are too busy looking up at the pinnacle and screaming and shouting his name in adoration. So he's not going to be able to get the help that he needs. But unfortunately, as with most narcissists, they end up falling off of the pinnacle of that mountain their damn self. But anyway, peace.